Thank you very much, Senate President and Majority Leader, my distinguished colleagues in the Senate. It is with compassion and our shared and unwavering commitment to the welfare of our people that I stand before you to submit and seek the approval of Committee Report 488, sponsoring herewith Senate Bill 2965, an act granting free funeral services to poor families, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. This legislation seeks to address the added and profound burden imposed on too many Filipino families during what is already a most difficult moment in their lives, the loss of a loved one. Masaklap na kapalaran ng mamatayan ng mahal sa buhay at lalong masaklap kung sa gitna ng ating dalamhati daragdag pa ang bigat ng mga pinansyal na pasanin na kaakibat ng kamatayan. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority, the PSA, in 2022, there was an average of 1,862 deaths per day in the Philippines, translating into 78 registered deaths per hour. For us Filipinos, honoring our dearly departed is a sacred tradition deeply rooted in our values of love, respect, and family. However, the reality for many Filipinos is that the high cost of funerals, burial services, and other related expenses has made it nearly impossible to provide even the simplest of dignified farewells to their loved ones. Indeed, if living today is costly, these days dying is utterly unaffordable. According to recent data, a modest funeral in rural Philippines will cost a bare minimum of 10,000 to 20,000, 30,000 in Metro Manila. For families living below the poverty line, this expense is not just a part of their daily struggle, it is an impossible reach. Many resort to borrowing money, pawning valuables, or literally begging and soliciting just to afford a decent burial, all the while grappling with inconsolable grief. Sa dami ng gastos para sa burol at paglilibing, ang mamamatay ngayon sa ating bansa ay parang ng luho. Kung wala kang pera, huwag kang maluho, huwag kang mamatay. Hindi ako nagbibiro, totoo yan. Sa oras na mamatay ang isang karaniwang Pilipino, may gastos na sa pag-eembalsamo sa punerarya. May gastos sa pagbili ng kabaong. May gastos sa gagamiting barong o saya ng namatay. Magpapakain ka sa burol, kape, biskwit, sabaw. May gastos sa paglilibing. Uupa ka ng sasakyan, magbabayad para sa puntod. Pagkagaling sa libing, magpapakain ka muli. Pero hindi pa natatapos dyan. Magpapadasal pa sa sa 40 at magpapakain ulit. Magpapadasal ulit sa babang luksa at magpapakain ulit. O di ba? Maluho nga talaga ang mamatay. Our proposed legislation aims to bridge this gap and alleviate the financial burden on grieving families by providing free funeral assistance to qualified beneficiaries. This measure will focus on families whose income falls below the poverty threshold defined by the NEDA, the National Economic Development Authority, and those who cannot afford in a sustained manner to provide their minimum basic needs of food, health, education, housing, or other essential amenities of life. With this new program, we intend to cover essential funeral services, including the preparation of funeral documents, embalming, interment or burial services, transport, cremation, and interment services, including the provision of a casket or urn and venue, as the case may be, offered by mortuaries. Marahil ang tanong ng marami, saan naman manggagaling ang pondo para sa panukalang ito? The program should be financed through a dedicated budget allocation in the General Appropriations Act, specifically under the Department of Social Welfare and Development's Assistance to Individuals in Crisis Situations, or AICS program, and other similar programs, ensuring its sustainability. The proposed measure also encourages partnerships with private funeral service provider to expand its reach by allowing them to seek reimbursement for the cost of services from regional offices of DSWD and providing a penal provision wherein the violation of the measure will be penalized with a fine not exceeding 200,000 pesos and the suspension of its license to operate for a period not exceeding 6 months. The Free Funeral Services Act is more than just another program. It's a manifestation of our collective empathy as public servants, the concrete proof of our compassion as a people. It ensures that no Filipino, regardless of social standing, shall be deprived of a proper and dignified farewell. Nung sa wakas na ilibing ang aking ama sa libingan ng mga bayani, ang dasal ng nanay ko sa lamay ay isang taong makadiyos, makatao at tunay. Sapagkat ang burol para sa ating mga Pilipino ay hindi lamang patungkol sa pagdadalamhati ng mga naulilang pamilya, kundi para rin sa pagdiriwan ng buhay, kung saan pinagsasama-sama ang mga kamag-anak, kaibigan at lahat ng ating mga mahal sa buhay upang parangalan ang ating minamahal na yumao. Colleagues, this legislation goes beyond addressing a financial need. It is about restoring dignity to our marginalized kababayans and showing them that in their most vulnerable moments, the government stands with them. This measure will send a message to every Filipino family na sa oras ng pagluluksa, kasama ninyo sa pagdadalamhati ang inyong pamahalaan. Ang panukalang ito ay ang konkretong paraan malas natin ang pakikiramay sa ating mga kababayang nagluluksa. Higit sa tradisyonal na nagpapadala ng bulaklak, ito ay katumbas ng sinserong pagyakap at pagpaparamdam ng simpatya. Maraming salamat po. Sana ay manahan sa ating mga puso ang mensaheng ito at naway sang ayunan ng aking mga mahal na kasamahan sa Senado ang Senate Bill number 2965 sa lalong madaling panahon. Maraming salamat po.
Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, I associate myself with the sponsorship speech of Senator Aimee Marcos. And modesty aside, Mr. President, when I was mayor of Tagaytay, this was my first project, Libreng Libing. At ito rin po ngayon ay pinatutupad namin sa buong ikawalong distrito ng lalawigan ng Cavite. Mr. President, Senator Ronald De La Rosa would like to insert his co-sponsorship speech into the records as well. Senator Rafi Tulfo would like to deliver a co-sponsorship speech, and I move that he be recognized.
Senator Tulfo is recognized. You may proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. My esteemed colleagues, I rise today in full support of Senate Bill, a measure that seeks to grant free funeral services to poor families. Bilang ko-author nitong panukala na ito, naniniwala ako na ang bawat Pilipino ay may karapatang may hatid sa kanyang huling hantungan ng may dignidad kahit ano pa mang estado mo sa buhay. I would like to thank our dear Senator Aimee Marcos for sponsoring this bill. In moments of grief, no family should have to bear the added burden of financial distress simply to lay their loved ones to rest. Para sa marami nating kababayan na tinatawid lang araw-araw ang kanilang pangkain at mga simple pangangailangan, ang gasto sa paglibing ay mabigat na problema. Sa kasalukuyan, ang gastos para sa lamay at libing ay di bababa sa 50,000 piso. Pero ang mismong libingan ay ibang gastos pa yan. Napipilitan tuloy mga pamilya na nagdadalamhati na humagilap ng pera o dili kaya umutang. Mr. President, this bill recognizes their plight and seeks to institutionalize a system where accredited funeral establishments, in coordination with the Department of Social Welfare and Development, will provide poor families with essential funeral services free of charge. Moreover, this bill establishes safeguards against abuse and provisions for fair reimbursement of funeral service providers. It is a balanced approach to that guarantee sustainability while fulfilling our duty to protect the most vulnerable sectors of our society. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, to this measure, we affirm our commitment to upholding human dignity, not just in life, but also in death. By covering funeral expenses for those most in need, we alleviate financial hardships and allow the families to focus on what truly matters, honoring the lives of their departed loved ones. With this, I respectfully urge my colleagues to support this measure. Thank you, Mr. President.
Noted and entered into the records. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, Senator Jinggoy Estrada would likewise have his co-sponsorship speech be inserted to the records.
Noted and entered into the records.
President, I move that we suspend consideration of Senate Bill number 2965. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 2920.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
President, the parliamentary status is that having closed the period of interpellation, I move that we open the period of amendments and recognize the sponsor, Senator Aquilino Pimentel III, to propose individual amendments. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, our distinguished Minority Floor Leader, Senator Pimentel, is recognized to propound individual amendments.
President, we are amending actually a very short law, Republic Act number 7309, with only 12 sections, and the bill, committee report bill is only 2 pages long. But do not be alarmed if the amendments seem to be long, because I just need to read into the records the new wording of some sections, Mr. President. And this is a low-hanging fruit, Mr. President. In the name of justice, we can be more just in our treatment of persons deprived of liberty, Mr. President. So on page 1, insert a new section 1, which states, Section 1, Section 3 of Republic Act number 7309, otherwise known as an act creating a board of claims under the Department of Justice for victims of unjust imprisonment or detention and victims of violent crimes and for other purposes, is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 3, who may file claims? The board may file claims for the following may file claims for compensation before the board, colon. A, any person who was unjustly detained and released without being charged, semicolon. Any person who was unjustly accused, comma, charged and detained, but subsequently released by the trial court with the finding that no crime was in fact committed, or that the accused could not have committed or did not commit the imputed crime, semicolon. C, any person who was unjustly accused, comma, convicted and imprisoned, but subsequently released by virtue of a judgment of acquittal, finding that no crime was in fact committed or that the accused could not have committed or did not commit the imputed crime, semicolon. D, any victim of arbitrary or illegal detention by the authorities as defined in the revised penal code under a final judgment of the court, semicolon. And E, any person who is a victim of violent crimes, period. For purposes of this act, violent crimes shall include rape and shall likewise refer to offenses committed with malice, which resulted in death or serious physical and/or psychological injuries, permanent incapacity or disability, insanity, abortion, serious trauma, or committed with torture, cruelty, or barbarity. I so move, Mr. President.
Objection? Any objection to the proposed? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
Since that was an insertion of a new section, I move that the succeeding sections be renumbered accordingly.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? There being none, amendment is approved.
So on page 1 of the committee report, lines 1 to 3, delete the phrase enclosed within the commas, beginning with the phrase otherwise known up to the words for other purposes. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
That is just a styling amendment because that phrase was mentioned now in the section that we inserted, Mr. President. On page 2, line 2, delete the word higher and let us reinstate the original word in the law, lower.
Lower.
Mr. President. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
On page 2, line 10. Tama ba? After the word E, let's insert, I move to insert a forward slash or a slash. and then the word she. So, tama ba yan? Yes, so we're making it read he/she, Mr. President. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
Amendment from Senator Lauren Legarda, which we're accepting, not only because it is her birthday today, Mr. President, but it really makes a lot of sense and it improves our bill, Mr. President. So page 2, line 18, after the word board or the phrase which shall be promulgated by the board, insert the phrase with the goal of streamlining requirements to enhance accessibility and efficiency. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
On page 2, line 19, insert a new section which states as follows. Anong section to?
Section 5 mo siya, sir. Kasi
It will now be the new
is
section
five.
6.
Section
6.
Section 5, Mr. President. On page 2, line 19. So, 2,
Yes, section 5.
3, 4. Yes, a new section 5. Section 5. Section 6 of Republic Act number 7309 is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 6, filing of claims by heirs. In case of death or incapacity of any person entitled to any award under this act, the claim may be filed by his/her heirs, in the following order, by his/her surviving spouse, children, parents, brothers, and/or sister. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection to the proposed amendment? Hearing none, amendment is approved.
It was only a styling amendment, Mr. President, bringing